When shit hits the fan, Solarwinds Attack 2020. The Phantom War, how a single line of code broke the digital world. Imagine a single key, a master key that doesn't just open one door, but every door to the most powerful buildings in the world. The Pentagon, the US Treasury, the labs of massive tech giants, the nerve centers of global communications. Now imagine that this key was stolen, duplicated, and secretly handed to an invisible enemy over the course of an entire year. And nobody knew it. This is the story of the SolarWinds cyber attack. It was the most sophisticated, audacious, and strategically damaging espionage campaign ever uncovered. It wasn't a smash and grab. It was a phantom war fought in the deepest recesses of the digital supply chain. It redefined trust as the ultimate vulnerability and left a permanent scar on global cybersecurity. To understand this attack, you must first understand the target and why it was so unique. The master key, a center of gravity. The victim, the point of entry, was a company called SolarWinds, based in Texas. SolarWinds sold a piece of software known as the Orion platform. Think of Orion as the ultimate IT manager. It was designed to monitor, troubleshoot, and maintain the health of sprawling, complex networks. If your network was a city, Orion was the utility control center, the traffic management system, and the mayor's office, all rolled into one. It needed to see everything to work effectively. And that is why the customer list for Orion was so extraordinary. It included the U.S. Departments of State, Commerce and Energy, branches of the military and intelligence community, NATO, and roughly 425 of the U.S. Fortune 500, the world's most critical infrastructure. For the threat actor, a highly resourced, state-sponsored espionage group, widely identified as the Russian SVR, SolarWinds was a singular, irresistible target. They didn't have to hack thousands of distinct, heavily fortified networks. They just needed to hack one company, once, to gain access to everyone. This is the essence of a supply chain attack, compromising a trusted source of software to distribute malware to a massive customer base. It's the digital equivalent of poisoning the reservoir instead of every glass of water. The enemy didn't try to crash through the steel perimeter of a bank or a government agency. Instead, they took their time and compromised the factory that made the security tools. The Phantom in the Factory. The timeline of the invasion is a masterclass in stealth and patience, stretching back to at least late 2019. The hackers first gained an initial foothold within SolarWinds' own corporate network. The technical specifics of how they got in are still debated, perhaps a clever phishing campaign or exploiting a zero-day vulnerability. But the entry point is less important than what they did next. They moved into the quietest, most protected part of the company, the software development environment. Imagine a factory floor where the source code, the DNA of the Orion software, is housed. This is where the engineers work, where new updates are created, and where the trust is paramount. The adversaries didn't immediately plant their final weapon. Instead, in October 2019, they performed a chilling, dry run. They inserted a tiny, harmless piece of test code into the Orion source. They then watched with bated breath as the software compiled, was digitally signed, and was shipped out to customers as a routine update. It passed every check. No fire alarms, no red flags. The door was open. Once the vulnerability was confirmed, the attackers moved with surgical precision. They deployed a bespoke piece of malware, which we now call Sunspot, designed specifically to operate within SolarWinds build servers. Sunspot was the phantom in the machine. It didn't steal data. Its sole purpose was to manipulate the code during compilation. It waited for the precise moment when a legitimate update was being built, swapped out a clean file for a poison one, let the compilation complete, and then vanished, cleaning up its tracks instantly. The result was a beautiful, terrible deception. The compiled software update contained the true weapon, a sophisticated backdoor known as Sunburst. And because it had traveled through the legitimate compilation process, it was protected by the most powerful validation available, SolarWinds' official, trusted digital security certificate. The Trojan horse was built, sealed, and stamped with the trusted vendor's name. The viral spread and the waiting game. Beginning in March 2020 and continuing for months, SolarWinds released the compromised updates. Organizations around the globe, acting responsibly to keep their critical network management systems current, downloaded and installed the malicious code. The trust inherent in the vendor relationship was the very thing that delivered the infection. Once inside an infected network, the Sunburst malware revealed the next layer of the adversary's strategic brilliance. It did not immediately attack. The malware was programmed to lay dormant for a minimum of 12 to 14 days before doing anything. This was a genius maneuver to defeat modern security analysis. Security teams often perform rapid analysis on new software. By waiting 2 weeks, the malware appeared to be just a stable, normal part of the system, surviving the initial sniff test. When it did awaken, Sunburst first checked its surroundings. It was programmed to filter out specific criteria, effectively asking, am I on a network belonging to a major cybersecurity firm? Am I in a testing lab or a sandboxed environment? If the answer was yes, the malware simply shut down and remained silent, preserving the entire operation's secrecy. This filtering ensured the attackers only proceeded in high-value networks. Out of the 18,000 customers who installed the poisoned update, the attackers were highly selective, moving into the deeper exploitation stage for only around 100 to 150 strategically important victims. This was intelligence gathering, not mass chaos. For the security teams at the victim organizations, this was the perfect hide. The code was signed by a trusted vendor, it lay dormant, and when it did communicate with the outside world, it did so by mimicking routine, expected network traffic. It was the epitome of invisibility. The harvest, stealing cloud identity. With the backdoor established in the highest value networks, including key parts of the U.S. Departments of Treasury, Justice, and Homeland Security, the final phase of espionage began, the harvest. The goal now was to steal information that drives strategic advantage. And in the modern enterprise, that information lives in one place, the cloud, specifically in email and cloud storage systems like Microsoft 365 and Azure. The attackers used their privileged access to pull off what many consider the most alarming technical feat of the entire campaign, SAML token forgery. To simplify a complex topic, when you use a modern work computer, you log in once, and your computer gets a digital ID card, a SAML token, that proves who you are to all your cloud services. This token lets you access email, documents, and collaboration apps without entering your password every time. The attackers managed to steal the master encryption key used by the organization to issue those tokens. With this master key, the adversary could forge their own tokens. They created fake but perfectly valid digital ID cards for anyone in the organization. High-ranking officials, IT administrators, financial officers. They could now access your most sensitive cloud accounts, bypassing multi-factor authentication, MFA, because the forged token was treated as the ultimate proof of identity. They didn't need a password. They had a master pass. This phase marked a major escalation in cyber warfare. The threat had moved beyond servers and local network walls. The attackers had compromised the very identity of the organization in the cloud, gaining persistent, silent access to the most sensitive communications for months on end. The discovery and the takedown. The campaign ran undetected for nearly 9 months, a staggering duration for an attack of this magnitude. It was finally exposed not by a government agency, but by a victim. In December 2020, the cybersecurity firm FireEye discovered they had been breached. Their internal investigation led them not to a simple hack, but to the Solarwinds update. In an act of extraordinary transparency, FireEye immediately published the technical details of the Sunburst malware, putting the entire global community on high alert. The global response was immediate and chaotic. The U.S. government ordered all federal agencies to immediately disconnect or shut down their compromised SolarWinds systems. Networks went dark overnight. Security researchers around the globe raced against the clock. They discovered a hidden design flaw in the Sunburst code, a kill switch. By having a specific network address resolved to an IP address controlled by the researchers, the malware would be tricked into thinking its operation was compromised and would shut itself down. This collective, heroic effort helped contain the spread and minimize damage on newly discovered victims. The attack had exposed the deep penetration of core government and corporate networks, leading to a period of intense crisis response and the painful multi-year process of threat hunting, trying to find every piece of digital debris left behind by the highly skilled adversary. The enduring strategic scar. The SolarWinds attack was the moment the conversation shifted from if we will be breached to when and how. It forced a strategic, board-level reckoning in every major organization worldwide. The death of the trust model. The central lesson is the failure of the old security doctrine. No longer can senior leadership rely on the concept of perimeter defense. That is, building tall, thick walls around the network. The threat was let in with a key. The new mandate, zero trust. The only viable long-term strategy is zero trust architecture. The principle is simple. Never trust, always verify. Every device, every application, and every user, inside or outside the network, must be verified for every single access attempt. Trust is no longer a given, it is a continuously earned state. Supply chain risk is business risk. The attack redefined supply chain management. It is no longer just about ensuring raw materials arrive, it's about verifying the digital integrity of the code that runs your business. This event catalyzed the movement to require a software bill of materials, SBOM, a complete verifiable list of every component and ingredient in the software you buy. Just as you demand to know the ingredients in your food, you must demand to know the ingredients in your code. The responsibility for vendor risk has moved from the IT department to the C-suite. Organizations must now rigorously audit their vendors' internal security practices, particularly their software development environments, recognizing that the weakest link could be your most critical partner. Geopolitical and financial fallout. The consequences were not just technical. The U.S. government formally attributed the attack to the Russian SVR, leading to sanctions and diplomatic responses. This firmly cemented the fact that cyber attacks on infrastructure and intelligence targets are an act of statecraft. The cyber insurance market tightened dramatically. Insurers recognized that a single supply chain attack could cause billions in damage across their entire portfolio of clients. Premiums rose and exclusions for catastrophic state-sponsored events became more common. Conclusion: the future of the Phantom War. The Solarwinds attack was a ghost story made real. A state-sponsored adversary weaponized trust itself, achieving strategic penetration into the digital infrastructure of nations and corporations, all while remaining unseen for months. This enduring narrative is a perpetual reminder. The most dangerous threats are not the ones trying to break in, but the ones you confidently invite through the door.